All right, let's go. Welcome back to the Skooshi Sports Podcast and continuing on with my NRL season previews for each team for 2026. And in this episode, we have got the Canberra Raiders, the milk from the capital, coming off one of their best years in a long time. Obviously, we know our minor premiers for 2025 completely out of the blue for a lot of people out there, a lot of punters out there had this team easily in the bottom four, including myself, but Ricky Stewart somehow got this team firing. They all clicked together and they won the minor premiership. Obviously, we know they did go out in straight sets. Obviously, that thrilling extra point game against the Broncos and then losing to the Sharkies as well at home. So they'll be looking forward to go sort of one better to, see if they can finish first again and potentially win a finals game and get a home prelim. But for me, this year, or next year, sorry, in 2026, if you haven't seen my ladder prediction video I brought out last week, you will see I have the Raiders finishing 11th in 2026. And I get it. That's a big difference going from 1st to 11th. But I do see a bit of regression with this Canberra Raiders team in 2026. So if we have a look at how the 2025 season went, obviously it was a massive success during the regular season. Out of 24 games, they won 19 games. They lost 5 of those games, had plenty of comeback wins in that 19 as well. Beat plenty of good teams. So I believe they had the best record against top 8 teams. Just very good against top 8 teams. Did turn up for the fight. They scored 654 points across the season and then conceded 506. So if you actually looked at how the top 8 did go, they did probably have they had the 3rd worst points against in this top 8. So there were 5 other teams that actually had better defense than the Canberra Raiders in the top 8 this year. So they finished with a points differential of plus 148 for the season, which was one of the best for the season, definitely for sure. Obviously, their coach, Ricky Stewart, one of the sort of almost like a legend in the NRL these days. Been with the Canberra Raiders for a long time now as a coach. And so he took this next step this year with the Canberra Raiders, which is really exciting to see. He is contracted till the end of 2029. So he's got definitely a few more years with the Canberra Raiders left to go for sure. All right, if we have a look at the 2026 gains and losses for the Canberra Raiders, there's a few really key signings that I actually really like for the Raiders this year, and there's obviously a couple sort of big losses that the Raiders have also had. So if we have a look at the 2026 gains, the first one that I really do like is the signing of Kobe Black. So Kobe Black, one of the up-and-coming halfbacks that we've got coming through sort of Queensland Cup and New South Wales Cup in the next sort of couple years, was meant to be with the Brisbane Broncos, was literally tailored to be the number 7 after Adam Reynolds retires. That is not happening anymore. They've gone a different direction. They've gone with Tom Duffy. So Raiders have pinched him, and I think they've pinched a really good talent there at Canberra as well. They signed him until 2028, which is huge. So now you look at, they've got Ethan Sanders, who they got from the Eels last year, and he was up and coming. Now they've got a battle at the 7, which I think is really good for the club. I think, for Ethan Sanders, a young guy, a guy who's dominated New South Wales under 19s, and for him to, instead of just sort of walk into an NRL team and say, hey, here's the keys, it's all yours, now he's actually got to fight for it in the preseason. And if he's not up to scratch in some of his games, you just never really know what could happen. So, going to be very interesting to see what does happen with Kobe Black and Ethan Sanders at the 7 role there. The next big signing that the Canberra Raiders have made for next year is obviously Jaden Brayley, the dummy half coming over from Newcastle on a 2-year deal until the end of 2027. So this is a very interesting one, right? Because last year they really sort of played quite a lot with obviously Tom Starling getting the start and then Owen Paddy coming on at the 14. And it seemed to work really well, right? We obviously know Owen Paddy, he's a super talent. He's going to be there for quite a while, we believe, at the Canberra Raiders there. But what was really interesting is they signed Jaden Brayley from Newcastle. What was it, halfway through this year? And we thought, okay, like they've made the decision. They want to go with Jaden Bradley and potentially sort of Owen Paddy at this 9 role, switch in and out. Maybe we probably thought that Owen Paddy would be quite dominant at that 9. Maybe next year would get 60 plus minutes. Probably doesn't look like that's what's going to happen. And they signed Jaden Bradley and we thought, okay, like they can't have 3 number 9s in their team. Probably is looking like they'll just go with Jaden Bradley and Owen Paddy for 2026. And then Owen Paddy re-signed, and then Tom Starling also re-signs. And I'm not sure how this sort of went, but they've re-signed Tom Starling, which I find super interesting. Now they've got 3 really good dummy halves there down in Canberra who are going to be battling out not just for the starting 9 role, but battling for any sort of game time as well. I would probably say Owen Paddy's going to continue coming off the bench for Canberra like he did last year. Come on, sort of that last 20, 25 minutes, have that really fast injection of speed and that really long, good kicking game as well. We know he can kick a bunch of 40-20s when he's on, and I think that will continue. It's just whether we start with Tom Starling or Jaden Bradley. Both have started at hooker for a very long time in the NRL. So I'd say going to be very interesting to see how that does work next year for Canberra. All right, moving on to the next sign. So I've got 4 key signings that they've brought on to the Raiders for 2026. And I honestly love this signing for the Raiders. Whether he gets a lot of game time on the wing is going to be another story. Obviously, you've got Tamale and you've got Xavier Savage there for the Raiders. That is Sione Finau from the Dragons. And Sione Finau got a bit of sort of game time with the Dragons this year. I think he's one of the more talented wingers that we've got coming through in the NRL. I think this is an absolute disaster by the Dragons letting go of this kid. I just don't see any reason why they've let go of him. Now they've signed, Setu 2 from the Warriors New South Wales Cup side. Fair replacement, but I just don't understand why they didn't put their investment into Sione Finau. I'm not sure if there's a backstory to that or that sort of thing, but I just thought Sione Finau is such a talent in the NRL. Why is he not getting more game time for the Dragons? Why are they not investing in more? Now the Raiders approached him. I think it's a great signing. I'd say he's going to get a bit of game time. Obviously, injuries happen, that sort of thing. Obviously, Tamale went down with, a 7-8 week injury this year. Xavier Savage, one of the most talented wingers that we've got going, one of the most talented players. Very inconsistent, hot and cold, but he's in like 3rd or 4th year now in the NRL, so we expect a little bit better now from Xavier Savage, but would not shock me to see Sione Finau getting a bit of game time for the Raiders next year, and I think when he does get that opportunity, he'll take it with both hands, and he will be awesome, I think, for the Raiders. Brilliant sign for the Raiders. 3-year deal till end of 2028. Love the signing for the Raiders. And then the last one is Dane Laurie. So obviously being a bit of a journeyman now with the Tigers. I've been with Penrith as well. And now at the Raiders there. He's not going to crack a starting spot. He obviously had his opportunity at the Tigers. Had his moments and then had his bad moments as well. And then was obviously the backup to Dylan Edwards this year for the Panthers. Came on at sort of that 14 role in the last sort of 10, 15 minutes at stages for the Panthers. Can be quite effective. It's just where he does slot into this team. If he does get opportunity, I think he may end up getting that opportunity if there's an injury in this Raiders starting 17. At the moment, he's not in my starting 17, not on the bench. I don't think, obviously you're going to have someone like an Owen Paddy on the bench. I don't think they need another back on their bench. I think they're completely fine running with sort of three forwards that they sort of need. And that's what I've gone with. Looking at the losses for 2026, obviously the massive one is the exit of Jamal Fogarty heading off to the Manly Seagulls, and one which was really kind of surprising to me. I'm not sure if it was a money thing, like Raiders just couldn't quite snap up the money to keep him. I would have tried and kept him, considering how much good of a year he had with the Raiders this year. How he's such a big impact on this Raiders attack, in my opinion. And whether they just wanted to get the opportunity to blood a guy like Ethan Sanders or now Kobe Black as well into that 7-role, whether they're looking long-term for that, whether they thought Jamal Fogarty wasn't the guy to bring them a premiership, I'm not sure. Now he's gone to Manly. I'm going to be really intrigued to see how this kicking game does go for the Raiders next year. He's just such a big impact with the boot of his long kicking game, short kicking game, the ability for him to put these big bombs, these torpedoes right on the try line, and really sort of pin the opposition back in their own 10, 20 meter line is massive and shouldn't go unnoticed. You also got a guy like Danny Levi. Obviously, they can't have 4 dummy halves and 4 hookers on the team anymore. He's off to the Super League for the Leeds Rhinos next year. You've got guys like Trey Mooney. He's off to Newcastle. I think that's a good signing for Newcastle. And just little guys like Alba Hopewades, your Adam Cooks, your Pasami Solos, Manaya Waitere. He's off to the Storm. Couple little sort of losses there, but I said the big losses definitely of Jamal Fogarty, 100% for the Raiders next year. He's about the only sort of big change that's happening, I guess, to this Raiders team apart from the hooker position, which we'll see. So very sort of similar 17 going into next year as it was this year. Obviously, the massive change at halfback, as I said. For me, with the Raiders this year, I'm not discounting their minor premiership, but I do think a lot of their wins, I don't have the stats in front of me, definitely come from behind wins, and they definitely sort of snapped them up in the last 10, 15 minutes, had some really big second half comeback wins. I remember they had one really good one in the last minute against Storm at Magic Round. They had a last minute try against Cronulla really early in the year, but it's just whether they can keep doing that, right? How often can you keep being down at halftime and find the mental strength to come back and keep doing it over and over again? And then we saw occasions where they got a big lead at halftime against the Bulldogs, one of the bigger games of the year early on in the season. I think they were both sort of 7-0 or 7-1 around that sort of stage. I think they were up by 20 points at halftime, and they let that lead slip completely. So across 80 minutes, they were the better team than most other teams in this comp, but definitely in periods where there's 1 half or 20-minute periods, they definitely were not the better team. So I think it's a big reason why we saw them go out in straight sets. Just didn't quite have that experience to kind of have a full game over 80 minutes and finish it off. I remember they had a massive lead against the Broncos in that final. Let that slip against the Broncos and Reece Walsh. I believe they scored the first try against the Sharks, I believe, in that second final as well, and then just didn't turn up in the second half. So this is sort of why I think it may sort of, I guess, luck may sort of change for the Raiders next year, and why I have them actually finishing a lot lower than most people would have, and why I've actually got them missing the 8 next year. I just sort of think they might go back to the pack, and I just see a lot of other good teams next year that may just perform a little bit better. I think Raiders had a couple sort of close wins this year, and I think they just may be on the other side of those next year, which does make a huge difference overall. If we look at the 1-17, obviously we have got pretty similar back 5 there as this year. I've gone with Ko Weeks at fullback. Your wingers are Sevilio Tamale, who had a breakout year in his rookie year, and Xavier Savage. Would not surprise me, as I said, to see Sione Finau get some game time during the year if there is an injury. And the centers, Matthew Timokol, New Zealand international. He was awesome for the Kiwis at the end of this year. And then Sebastian Kris as well. He does fight injuries definitely here and there, so we'll see how he goes. And then in the halves, obviously 5'8", we've got Ethan Strange, one of the best upcoming 5'8s that we've got. Dalian 5'8 of the year, super talented. I think this guy would be playing Origin for New South Wales definitely in the future. And then at 7, I reckon in round 1 they're going to go with Ethan Sanders, but this is very interesting development. If Ethan Sanders doesn't start right for the Raiders, how long do they continue to ride with him before they get the opportunity to Kobe Black? Kobe Black, he's sort of at that age now where I think he's probably can have the ability to start for an NRL team. Obviously not sort of maybe mature enough in his game to keep leading him around the park and take them to a finals win maybe. But very interesting to see if this Raiders team doesn't quite start as good as I'd like to. All heads and all eyes will turn towards the halfback generally. Obviously the coach as well. and where this team is and where this attack is going. If they're not quite scoring the points and don't have the kicking game, be very interesting development to see where this does go at the halfback position between Ethan Sanders and Kobe Black. I think Ethan Sanders will start there in round one. Obviously, he was the first off the list there. A key signing for them last year from the Eels. Excuse me. So I do think he'll get the round one start. But will he be the 7 at the end of the season is the big question. Your forward pack, one of the biggest forward packs and the best forward packs in the comp going around. Absolute beasts they were this year. Absolute beast tanks for the Raiders. Josh Papali'i, what was he coming into his 12th year or something into the NRL? An absolute workhorse of human. He's such a key fundamental part to this Raiders pack and such a key fundamental part to this Raiders organization as a whole. We know Ricky Stewart absolutely loves Big Papa, and I can obviously see why. He's an absolute legend of the club, so highly respected. Origin representative in the past there, even just recently as well. And then the other is Joseph Tarpany. What more could you say about Joseph Tarpany? Had an absolute stellar year for the Raiders this year, and stellar for the Kiwis as well. He is immense. He is just so good. We know he's got energy in the tank to have big minutes, and he just keeps the legs churning and churning and churning. In the hooker position, I think for round one, they will start with Tom Starling, sort of similar to what they did this year. Kind of is like, if it's not broken, don't fix it kind of thing. They've obviously got Jaden Brayley there. I think Owen Paddy still has to come off the bench. I don't think, if you look at these three hookers together, that Owen Paddy should be the starter, and then you get these other two as an injection of speed late in the game. I think you'll see Tom Starling and Jaden Brayley, one of those two start, make all the tackles, get all the hard work done, and then when the game starts to fatigue a bit, that's when you get the young, fresh legs of Owen Paddy and the kicking game of Owen Paddy on the field to make a serious impact. He is going to be so good, I think, for the Rays again next year. One of the definitely star players coming through the NRL. Edge back rowers, probably two of the best duo, or one of the best duos going around. Obviously, Hudson Young on the left, played for the Kangaroos in the Ashes. Origin representative as well, scores an absolute bunch of tries, runs an absolute beast of a line. Hudson Young is an absolute automatic in this team. One of the best players going around in Canberra as well, and pretty much overall in our comp, one of the best edge rowers, I'd say. The other one there, I have gone for Zach Hosking there. I think it'll be a little bit of a battle between him and Matty Nicholson there on that right edge. We know what we're seeing with what was Zach Hosking. Whenever he has to step into that role, he just gets the job done, and pretty effectively as well. Scores a bunch of tries, but I also loved what I saw from Matty Nicholson this year. Had a bit of an injury during the mid-year, but the way he started his career at the Raiders was absolutely unreal. What, he had a hat-trick in his first game for the Raiders. He looks so bloody good coming over from the Super League last year. He looks immense, and it would not shock me if Matty Nicholson Jr. becomes a starter once again, and we see Zach Hosking come off the bench and maybe play more of that middle role for the Raiders, which he can do. And at 13, finish off at lock, I've gone for Big Red. Corey Horsburgh, he will be looking to make Origin for Queensland next year without a doubt. What you see is what you get with Big Red. Had an absolute breakout year again with the Raiders. Had a couple little lull years. Had sort of conflictions with Ricky Stewart. That was like it got tied over, and he started in Vegas last year, and he was unreal. And he was unreal this year as well. Super aggressive. He's got obviously good amount of tackling, good amount of footwork as well. Really do love Corey Horsburgh at that 13 role there. Can't see that kind of getting taken off him during the year unless something drastic was to happen. Maybe a Morgan Smithies come in, but I think Corey Horsburgh as a whole brings a lot more dynamic to this Canberra attack. All right, on to your interchange. Obviously, at 14, we've gone with Owen Paddy there to come off the bench. With 15, we've gone with Simi Sasangi. When Hudson Young has been on, Origin rep, he's stepped into this role, and he's been awesome. Simi Sasangi had to play 5'8" for the Raiders in that final against the Sharks. I thought he actually stepped into that role quite well. So very versatile player, very good player, and a very good player to come off the bench for the Raiders. At 16, your other edge row, I've gone for Matty Nicholson. As I said, I've got Zach Hoskins starting, so I could have gone for either or. I would not shock me to see Matty Nicholson get the start in round 1. Against Manly, but I have gone with him on the bench there. And then the other one I've gone with is Morgan Smithies. So Morgan Smithies, we know he can play lock, he can get in the middle. He's not the most versatile lock when it comes to, whether it's big offloads or that sort of thing and scoring tries. He just gets the ball, runs the line, makes his tackles, gets the job done. He's essentially like a third forward there for the Raiders. If we look at the rest of the squad for the Raiders, and I think they're struggling for a little bit of depth in all honesty. Just a couple of these names, this is the thing with the Raiders, right? Apart from your hooker and your halfback position and maybe that Zach Hosking and Matty Nicholson position, I don't see a lot of competition happening within this Raiders team. I just think, obviously, you've got your standard guys who are going to be there 100%, like your Tarpanese, your Hudson Youngs, Ethan Strange, Matt Timoko, I think, should be there. But then, and KO Weeks, that sort of thing. But I just think a lot of these other guys don't have a whole lot of pressure on them, really, when you look at the other guys in the squad. You got guys like Chevy Stewart, who has had his couple opportunities, hasn't really shown too much. A guy like Joe Roddy, had a couple good games here and there. Is he going to be better than what Tamale or Savage or Sione Finau produce? I don't really think so. Dane Laurie, we know what Dane Laurie can do. Is he as talented as KO Weeks? Is he going to produce the same? No. Is KO Weeks going to be under pressure after a couple bad games? No, I don't think so. It's just really interesting to see, right? You got guys obviously Adam Mariota, Noah Martins, that sort of thing. Miles Martin as well. I just don't see a lot of competition within this Raiders team within itself. Obviously, apart from that starting number 9 role and potentially that 7 role. I'd love to see Sione Finau get some game time for the Raiders next year. I think he's so talented. I'm really high on this guy. But I just don't, I like seeing depth where, there's going to be competition within the club for that position every week at training. And if there's a loss, the player's under pressure and to fight for their position. It just means you get the absolute best effort generally out of all your players each and every week. I'm not saying that they won't put in their best effort every single game. I just think it adds a little bit more to the team. And it's really sort of good to have that competition within the club. If we look at their draw for next year, they play obviously they finish top 4. They play 2 of the top other 3 opponents in top 4 twice. They play 11 top 8 opponents, which is not too bad. So where they play 13 teams in the bottom 9, which is not the worst. And they play 3 teams off the bye as well. So not too bad. They do start with only 3 home games in their opening 9 games. They include a trip to New Zealand, I think, in round 2, I think. They got to go to Newcastle, which is quite hard to play. If this Raiders team doesn't start well with 6 road games in their first 9 games, it is going to be very bloody interesting. They played Panthers, Storm, Sharks, and Bulldogs twice. If this team doesn't start well in the first 9 games, I'm very intrigued how this team does line up near Origin period, where they get Kobe Black in there and blood him and think he's the guy, where Sione Finau gets a shot. But as I said, I just don't see any other competition. It's just mainly that 7 and 9 role, which I have a couple concerns about. Maybe Matty Nicholson gets a start over Zach Hosking. But I don't really see it well where, Morgan Smithies, Corey Horsburgh is going to be on the hot seat, his role. Hudson Young won't be. Josh Papali probably won't be. Matt Timoko probably won't be. Tamale probably won't be. KO Weeks probably won't be. It's just interesting to see where the depth of the side is at and where it sort of goes, especially after winning the minor premiership. We know a lot of teams will be kind of hunting them down to try and beat them. So, look, I've got the Raiders coming 11th. It's a bit of a boisterous opinion for sure. Can they make finals? Absolutely. Can they replicate what they did this year? Absolutely. But can I see it myself? I definitely can't. I have these team actually missing the finals for next year, but that will do it for the Raiders episode of their season preview for 2026, running through their record from this year, their ins and outs for next year, running through their 1 to 17 I've predicted for 2026 as well, and having a little bit look at their draw as well. Obviously, I have this team finishing 11th in my ladder prediction. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you go check it out. It's all there for you. Not sure what my next two teams will be. Definitely be sort of random pick. I'm not doing it in any sort of order, but thank you so much for listening, guys. This has been the Raiders season preview for 2026. Thank you so much for watching, and cheers.